We are on to the next section here of our ballast install. We are going to be doing all the plumbing as well as putting our bags in, test filling everything with our Fake-A-Lake, and then getting our switches installed completely with the switch panel. So we'll walk you through all those steps. Make sure to leave any questions you might have in the comments below as you watch the video. Next, we will be running our wires for the switches for the pumps. One wire will be running back to the pumps, and they're all going to come through this gap here, just like our RCAs did. So one's going back to the pumps to give them signal to either fill or empty, and the other one is going to go to our Blue C fuse box to get power. So the one that's getting power is going to run in the same exact direction towards our amplifier, since that's going to be where the Blue C box is. So once again, in this hole under the deck here, and then into the spotter seat, and then under the spotter seat there. And this one's just going to run back through the gunnel basically of the boat back to our pumps. And so we'll have 3 running to the Blue Sea box and 3 running to the back end of our boat. All right, so we now have our wires coming through here. We're gonna go ahead and get them stripped back so that we can get some mounting terminals on there, install our Blue C fuse box, and get everything wrapped up on this panel. All right, we've got all those stripped back. We're gonna strip the actual wires now, get our terminals on the end there so that they can get hooked up to our board here. All right, so now we got all of our ends terminated. I decided I'm gonna put my fuse box right here. So we're just gonna get that screwed into the wall hook, and then we'll get all of our wiring hooked up for that. All right, so all of those are now hooked up. I'm gonna run our positive and negative 12 amp wire here. All right, we got our 30 amp fuses. We're just gonna put one in each slot. There are still 3 more slots on the other side of this fuse box for any accessories that want to be added in the future. And we've got our cover here.
keeps everything nice and clean, and we'll zip tie these to the board when we clean up all of our wiring in this panel. But that's it for installment of our Blue Sea box, as well as all of the pump switches. Now that we have our valves in place, we're going to go ahead and start running our hose to our pumps. I plan on using these two front ones to fill our rear bags, and then the one that's singularly in the back there by near the prop to run to our pump for our bow and ski locker bag. For this, I'm just gonna put the hose over the valves and kind of pull it through to get the length that I want, and then cut off a little bit excess in case we need to change anything as far as direction goes. But overall, it should fit pretty nicely. These valves kind of come at an angle, so I'm actually going to use that and cross over rather than trying to fight that angle, since this hose is a little bit stiff. We want to make sure to avoid any moving parts on the engine, and just, you know, staying away from things that could heat it up too much. All right, so now we have both of those hoses running to their correlating pumps. I'll show you here in the back what that looks like. All right, so back here in our locker, you can see this hose comes in from the engine bay there through that compartment and runs up and over down to our valve. And it does the exact same thing on this side, up and over, and to our valve, or to our pump there. So next we'll be running this valve right here to our pump right here on the other side of our engine bay. We are now going to install our vent through hulls. They are very similar to the through hulls we did on the bottom of the boat. These ones are chrome. We won't need to use 4200 for these. We will only need to use silicone, since they will not be fully submerged all the time, and they'll just only need to protect against water occasionally. It's basically the same process. We're going to drill through with our pilot bit, which is 1/4, and then go through with our 1.5" hole saw bit, once again starting in reverse and then moving to forward once we're through the gel coat. I like to tape off the area that we're going to do. We're going to try to aim for right below this tower footing, and the reason we're going further up here on the boat is we want to be in front of the bag, so that way when the bag gets shifted back, when the boat accelerates, the water is not splashing out the vent. So we will go ahead and drill our hole and get this started. Once it's in place with the silicone around the lip, as you can see with these through hulls, they have a groove here. So what I've been doing is taking a screwdriver and putting it through that groove while I tighten the ring on the back of it. You can do it as a one-person type of situation then from the inside of the boat. Keep in mind to stay away from gas lines, to check whatever's behind where you're going to be drilling through. You don't want to drill into something that would cause issues. So yeah, we're going to go ahead and get started. What I like to do is take our through hull here, use a black marker, and just kind of put a bunch of ink on the edge of the through hull. Find out where it's going to fit best, and then press that, kind of give it a little wiggle. And that's going to give me a rough outline of where I need to be. I'm just going to go straight in the center of that. So like I said before, we're going to start off with our 1/4 inch bit. In reverse. Do the same thing by starting in reverse. All right, we punch through that hole. We're gonna get everything cleaned up here before we move on to siliconing in that piece of through hole. Usually I just wipe it down with some paper towels and rubbing alcohol, but I'll also use an air hose to blow all this dust away. Just clean up this area with some rubbing alcohol. And we'll just do a thick bead of silicone along the groove. And then, like I said before, we'll go on the inside of the boat and just spin that ring tight while using our screwdriver to hold it in place. And once we get everything in place and tightened down, we'll come back out here and clean up the excess silicone. We're going to go ahead and use a plastic razor blade to scrape up the rest of the epoxy or silicone around the edge, and then we'll clean it with some rubbing alcohol. All right, so that's all done and ready to be hooked up to our bag. We're going to go ahead and do the same thing on the other side and then in the bow as well. Now that we have all of our vent through hulls done, we're going to go ahead and install the plumbing for the bags, which is going to include from the pump to the bag and then from the bag to the vent. On our vent hose side, we will be using check valves, so that way when we suck the bags flat, they'll suck all the way flat and not allow any air in there. Otherwise, we'll just be using these quick connect valves with the quick connect pieces all attached to our hose. They'll be held on by our clamps, and we'll just cut the hose to length for each one. All right, so as you can see, we're in our starboard side locker here. We have our fill hole at the back of our bag here. So we're just gonna go ahead and screw in a quick connect valve for that. And then our vent hole, which is at the front of the bag, front top, we're gonna put a quick connect valve in for that. And then we'll put 2 plugs in the other holes. So then what we'll do is run tubing from our pump here to our fill in the back, and then from our vent here to our through hull vent on the side with a check valve in between that. All right, so our fill hose is going to run up and around, and then down back here. So we're going to get it cut. and then we'll go ahead and attach our 90. Okay, so I'm gonna use our hose stretcher to get this fitting to fit correctly in there, and then we'll go ahead and crimp it down. I'm gonna get our hose clamp on there. So we got it stretched. We'll slide our fitting in. You can also use heat to do this. We just have this stretcher here so that we don't have to carry around a heat gun with us everywhere. All right, so I ended up changing the fitting. We're gonna go with these ones you can tighten down rather than the clamp ones. They just weren't working out great for this. So now we can just slide this straight over, fitting down here, and then slide our red clip down to keep that safe. And so now when the bag fills, the hose will be out of the way, and we'll get that zip tied up here. And then next we'll move on to our vent hose. So next we'll be installing our vent hose. It's right behind this wall, behind the footing there on the tower. I'm gonna go ahead and create our piece that's gonna go from the vent to our check valve. Our check valve goes this way. You can blow through it to see which way it allows. So you want it to allow it out, but not air to come back in. So we're gonna go on this end with it. So I'm gonna go ahead and toss a hose clamp on there quick. Then we'll get that stretched out so we can slide that in there. Actually looks like we have a little bit of tearing there on that hose, so we're gonna cut that and then re-stretch it. Okay, so it's stretched. And slide our fitting in there. And we'll tighten that down. Typically for tightening these down, the rule of thumb is once this band that's coming through starts to go at an angle, then it's fully tight. So we're probably good there. Can test it, there's no twist or anything. That's got a nice good connection. Next, what we're gonna do is heat this section here. Since it is such a sharp angle in there, we're gonna need to get some heat on it. But before we do that, we're gonna put our next hose clamp on. So that way, once we get it in the corner there, it'll slide right on. We'll stretch it out a little so it'll slide over easily. Oh, we actually cracked it there. All right, so we're just gonna give that a little bend now that it's warmed up. We wanna try to avoid getting kinks in it, so we're gonna just bend it. I'm actually gonna hop in the cubby now and get this put in there while it's hot. Now that we have that first section installed, we're going to go ahead with our second section here. We're going to stretch this out just like we do with all the other ones, get a hose clamp on there and put it on the other side of that check valve, and then tighten it down. All right, so now that hose is attached over there. I'll run the length we need to get to our vent here, and we'll cut it, put on the quick connect, and we will be done with this side. And the exact side, or the other side, is the exact same process, just reversed. All right, and the last step, in this whole process is going to be putting hose clamps on our pump here. I haven't done that yet. I'm going to go ahead and do that right now, just stretch them out a little bit and toss them on there. We're going to go ahead and follow the exact same steps on this side as we did on the other side, so I'm not going to go through them in as much detail. All right, so the next fill hose that we're running, actually we got started on when we did some wiring. It is the fill hose for our ski locker and front bow bag. As you can see, our pump is right behind the seat, and it comes down from here and runs on top of the gas tank. And that actually runs directly up into our ski locker up here. And as you can see, it comes out right here. So what we are going to do is get some of these wires out of the way, and then our fill spot is right here on this bag. And so we will hook this up to the fill/drain spot, since we do that out of the same place. It's just going to be a straight hose fitting straight to that, along with a right angle one for this. Nothing too complicated. And then I actually also got started on the one that goes into our bow bag, and I'll show you exactly how we did that, and how you can go about linking these two up so that they work in tandem. For our fill for our bow bag, what we did is we ran a hose through the floorboard here down into the ski locker, and we just drilled an 1.5-inch hole right next to the vent there, and just ran the hose up to here, and then it comes down into the ski locker and attaches to the front of the ski locker bag. So pretty straightforward, super simple. Just got to drill an 1.5-inch hole to run that hose through. For the front of our bow bag for venting, we have it here, and what we'll do is we'll hook this hose up to this vent spot, run the hose up through here, put a zip tie up there to hold the hose kind of higher than the rest of the bag, and then run the hose all the way through the side here up until we get into our cavity in here where our vent, as you can see, our vent hole is right up there.
and we will run the hose to that vent hole then, just like we did with all the other ones.
I'm going to start off by running a zip tie up here around the loom so that the hose will have something to run through. I might remove this speaker just so I have some hole to pass that hose through. Now that we finished up all of our plumbing for this boat, we have all of our pumps installed, through hulls finished up and sealed, and all of the plumbing run. We are going to test everything. We've got our Fake-A-Lake hooked up on the bottom of our through hulls, and we're going to test each pump individually to make sure it fills all the way, that there's no leaks in any of the bags or any of our fittings, and that it sucks flat and drains all the way. So we're gonna go ahead and get that started. I'll just show you guys an overview of the bags filling up and emptying out, and if we run into any issues along the way. All right guys, so we're gonna turn on the water and let these bags fill up. All right, so we now have water flowing into our middle bag here. We wanna make sure it fills up both the front and the back. So our center bag is completely full now, and we are getting full push into our other bag, which is exactly what we want. All right, so we verified that all of our bags fill correctly. So now we're gonna turn our pumps on in reverse and start to empty them out to make sure they suck flat all the way. All right guys, we're gonna go ahead and do our port side bag now. Same test, fill and drain. All right, so we're doing the same test on this side, filling the bag here. And then we'll empty it once we're done. Fill our last bag, and then we will be all done testing this system, and we will be ready to get everything tucked away and wrapped up in this section of the boat. All right, so that wraps up our entire ballast install. We put our through hulls in, we put our pumps in, we plumbed everything, and we made sure everything filled and emptied correctly, as well as getting our switches installed. The next step in this boat project will be our gator step, so make sure to stick around for that, and then this boat will be done.
Make sure to leave any questions or comments in the comments section down below. Give us a call, visit us on our website, and shoot us an email if you have any questions on ballast or ballast install for your boat. We're here to help.